Hi, Yvonne.
Hello. Hi, Evie. How are you?
I'm fine. How are things this
Excellent.
Thursday?
I'm good. I can't believe it's Thursday. Like
Again.
literally the end of January in 2 days' time. What is going on? It's balmy, right?
Well, I have stopped talking about the time like this because it seems to me that, yeah, it just disappears. I don't know what's going on, but like I decided that's it. The New Year's resolution, I'm not talking about time. I don't pay attention to you anymore. That's it. Let it go.
It's interesting because I always think when I think about time, I always think about oh goodness, what is that artist's name? Dali. He did the melting clocks.
Mm.
And I always think that is time. It's fluid. It's melting. It's not. It doesn't stay. It's constantly. It's constantly moving, right? So why we get caught up with it, feeling like it's going too fast? That is because it's almost like we want to have more hours in the day, and actually, no, 24 hours in a day is plenty. For us to be getting on with. Quite frankly. And I've actually enjoyed January because I have completely slowed down. It's been like I'm just observe. I just wanted to take some time to practice what I preach, pausing, observing, noticing without rushing in to do anything. And that's what January's been for me, and I've loved it. I'm going to say that it's really set me up for the months to come. Yeah,
It is
good time.
fantastic when you take that time off and reflect, and also, as you said, let yourself be set to succeed the following months, instead of just rushing into something that you're not
Yes.
100% sure. And the thing is that, like, with what we're discussing today, I think time does you know play into it, because sometimes we get caught up, and let me just say, it's the comparison mindset that we're talking about today. But like, you think that everybody does so many more things than you, so it feels like they have much more time than you, and that's why they are ahead of you, in so many different ways. But I don't know, I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think of that? What do you think
Yeah.
of
I think
this
that
take?
that first phrase, she's ahead of me. Gosh, I've probably said it to myself previously. I certainly know some of the women I've worked with. It's just like, oh my goodness, everybody seems to be ahead of me. You know, Even if I started first, everyone's just taken over. There's always this sensation of time that everyone else is making best use of it, but I'm not. And so you're right, that kind of feeling into time as if there's some sort of race anyway. And I think that's the thing is we start to think it's like this race. What's the race? And we forget to refer back to the tortoise and the hare story, right? When we think about, which I think is such a brilliant story, there's the hare powering on, the tortoise is as slow as a tortoise can be, literally, but the tortoise wins out in the end because there's that consistency. There's that sense of pacing, and this for me is like how my January has been, that just allows you to observe first before you dive in and start doing a million things and really trapping your own self, thinking, I haven't moved any further forward. Because guess what? There is the chance that you've been pulled off in 20 different directions and you haven't actually gone into the direction that you truly wanted to or that you felt called to. All you're doing is firefighting all over the place. And so I think for me now, when I think about people who tend to kind of seem to be really making an inroad, it's because they're staying really steady on the one thing that they are determined that they want to see unfold. What they're not doing is one thing, two things, three things, four things, five things. Oh, and let's just throw something else in the mix. And that has been a lesson that I've had to learn for myself because again, going back to my patterns, and then if we talk about the saboteur patterns, and being, the restless, as a restless, it's do, 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 do. And the more things I'm doing, yay, yay, yay. And actually, no. And so this year has been a complete change for me. And it's been probably the best change that I've made in the way that I am showing up for myself and then out into the world, in a very, very long time.
It is very interesting, isn't it? Sometimes we think doing like 10 things is going to move us forward, when in truth, doing one thing consistently is what moves us forward. And we can see evidence of that throughout our lives. It's just that what we hear the last few years is that unless you're doing, you're not, you know, progressing or whatever. But like, it's not unless you're doing that one thing that you're focusing on. It's like unless you do like 5, 6, 7, 10 different things, you're not getting anywhere. And I love what you said earlier, that everyone is ahead of me. We hear that all the time, isn't it? That exaggeration of like, who is everyone? I mean, who is everyone? Stop and hear what you're saying to yourself, and how you put yourself down. And it's not everyone. And in actual fact, everyone is trying to figure things out, rather than they are there getting so much more time than you, and being so much ahead. Um, and if there are people that are ahead, then I always, these days, because as you said, I mean, I got in this trap as well in the past. And of course, every shiny thing under the sun was something I was pulled to.
Yeah.
Used to, thank God. And if there is somebody that is ahead, the question is, okay, can we see what they're doing? Is there something that we can mirror? Is it worth mirroring as well? Because I mean, you never know. Because in the past, we talked about what success means, and what it means to you and to others. So again, that is something we need to consider when it comes to this phrase, she's ahead of me.
Yeah. And also, and I think there is, there's always value in if somebody's doing something very similar to you, and this is, whether it's work, whether it's in community, whatever it is, and you sense that they're progressing at a different rate from you, it do we still need to do that as a comparison though? Can we
No.
not just like, wow, I really admire the way she's getting stuff done? And I bring that up because actually, Colinda left a little message under our Tuesday post about this live, and she was saying she was wondering if it's ever good to compare, or whether you can do it from a loving place. And she said, for example, we can ask, what do I admire here? Or what feels aligned for me and what doesn't? And I think that's the whole point, is you can see somebody ahead, and even ahead makes me cringe a little bit. You can see somebody progressing, right? And just be in admiration and hold the admiration for them and just think, wow, how brilliant is that? As opposed to, oh my gosh, look what she's done. Why haven't, how do I, instead of now going down this, into this narrative of suddenly you haven't got all the knowledge you need to have, you haven't got all the cards, you don't know what you're doing, instead of pushing yourself into that space, be in admiration, just, being able to admire that and think, wow. And maybe there is a habit or a trait that she has that could be mirrored, or maybe it's a trait that she has that you don't really have or don't want to have. It doesn't really, it's not your thing, and be okay with that too, because ultimately we all have our own pace, we all have our own timelines. Timelines are so, it's so important for us to acknowledge our own timelines, because we do it when it comes to age, we do it with, I mean, everything, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too this, I'm too that. Actually, it's just like, what is it? What is it that you're setting out to do? And how does that unfold for you? Because even if you and I were going out to do the same thing we do not working exactly the same way. We don't think about things in exactly the same way. Therefore, we will go at a different pace. There'll be them, and there may be moments when you seem to me to be, getting along and then there'll be moments when I will perhaps feel. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like stop with the comparison because usually it becomes a draining thing, not a helpful thing. If you can sit back and compare without it draining your energy, without it draining you mentally, great. But generally speaking, that's where it goes, right?
Well, yeah, when it comes to comparisons, first of all, I don't particularly like comparisons, that. But like everything that we do have two sides, right? It's like the two sides of the coin. And when we compare, not really compare, when we can like admire something that is like a step ahead of us, because I can admire Tony Robbins, like 24/7, but I can get a lot of things from his work and it can help me progress. But his is a lifetime of work and a completely different direction where he has been, right? So there is no real comparison there. But we're talking about people, as you said, that are doing similar things to us, and we can see what lovely work they're doing, that is a really good place to be, and to not only admire but also champion or collaborate. Or there are so many things to do when it comes to other humans that are doing things um, like we do, instead of comparing, because comparison is, as you said, draining. It doesn't really get you anywhere apart from maybe beating yourself up, um, and it's not worth your time. That's the bottom line.
Mm.
When there are so many other things that you can do that can set you up for success in your own time at the end of the day. Because you said it brilliantly, each one of us has their own timeline. Why compare?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also just understanding that comparison, it's not just in work. This can be as a parent,
Mhm.
and I've certainly heard it and seen it a lot in parenting. Oh my gosh, she's just this amazing mother and I'm rubbish. Or, no, stop already. Again, you can admire the things that you see somebody else doing and being in that role without diminishing yourself, without, therefore they're that and I must be this. No, it's just being able to see it and be able to, yeah, champion them, admire them, do all of that stuff without it having to melt into your space and your timeline. And actually, putting that energy that otherwise is being sucked out of you into the thing that you are doing and in the direction that you are going. Um, yeah.
I have heard professionals that they say they don't even look at other people. They don't even look at other people and the people's work, that they are of similar professionals. But I don't know if I agree with that 100%. To be honest
Mm.
with you, I don't know. I mean, tell me what you think. But um, I don't believe that you need to just take yourself out of the equation completely in order for you not to be tempted to compare. I believe that you should be like open to seeing things, so because we learn from each other as well, and we learn from things that are happening. And if something is like a way to drain for you, yes, wonderful, there is no reason to even go there. But
Mm.
not, and it's like it can be also refreshing. It can be something that gives you inspiration. It can be like so many positive things. So I don't believe that Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't know. What is your take on that?
Yeah. Well, I think that's really interesting. So I am a deep believer of I don't want to hear should. I just don't want to hear it because there is what is should. We live our lives every day in choice, whether we think we do or not, we do. So if somebody says to me, I don't even want to look at what other people are doing, and they're doing it because it just becomes a distraction because they know what that is likely to lead to for them. I get it. That I like so I get it. I get it. However, in the same breath, just as you were saying, is gosh, if I never ever looked at what other people were doing, there's so much information and knowledge that I would not have that I have got because I have looked at what other people are doing. It's the ability to look without lessening yourself in the process, without feeling like I'm not bringing enough to the table, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not pushing hard enough, I'm not being the best parent I could be, without going into those loops is the thing that we need. That's what we need to do, which is why this work, when we talk about positive intelligence, being able to break those loops, those patterns of thinking that literally lead us into thinking that like the world is against us at every corner. And generally speaking, it's the decisions, it's the choices that we're making that are perhaps holding us, and we are making them not even because we want to, but because it's a pattern inside. It's like it's just an auto, it's on an auto, it's just going to go that way. And sometimes after, I don't know if you have ever, but sometimes I've decided to do something, and no look, sooner have I decided and I'm doing it, I think, what made me think that was a good idea? Why am I doing that? But I did it because it was automatic for me. It was like the easy go-to, right? Inbuilt. And then and that's why I think this stopping and pausing is so important. Like, let me just get the whole picture here. Let me just not just get it here, get it in my gut. Let me just get all of this before I start deciding, before I make that choice. It's a very different experience.
It is. And I mean, it's interesting what you mentioned there, because I used to have this pattern that, okay, I've started it, I need to complete it, and if I don't complete it, I'm a failure, and that kept on going, and this caused a lot more things not to be completed because they were bad starts from the start. And instead of giving myself the grace to say, okay, I thought it was a good idea to start with. It's not. I'm going to put it down and I'm going to understand why I started it, reflect on it, and do something else now because that serves me better. I would push myself to doing something that really didn't align with me just because I decided that, I don't know, sometime in the past now I will do it. And that pattern that was telling me that now if you start you need to finish it, blah 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 blah. It just stayed there and was running me, and it is so, like, so much time has been wasted, literally wasted, doing that. And I know in a matter of fact, nothing really gets lost. Time doesn't get lost. And I know that the things that I have done, whether I completed them or not, when they aligned or not, they sort of like created the person that I am today, the way that I think today, the way that I act today, and so on and so forth. Yes, there were some things that I could do without, I suppose, but well, it is what it is. So, but we need to be so careful with what you just said, like not to just, it is almost that honor, like, I don't know, for us is like, I'm talking about generally, when you have that sense of honor and duty, and you're, oh no, I've started, it's my duty to complete it. Well, who says that?
Mm.
Who? And why is that thing playing in your head? And
Yeah.
when I started questioning that, it sort of freed me so much. Even reading a book, like, the most boring book, whatever, and I wouldn't read another book unless this book was finished. It was painful, but I had to finish it to get to the next one that I really enjoyed. I mean, why would I do that to myself? And I did for years. Not anymore, thank God.
Well, what I was going to say is, well, then no wonder if people got ahead of you reading books because they were putting down the ones that they didn't want to read anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, so for me, that's like a real opportunity for us to look at these habits that we are forming, and that message, I've started, that therefore I must finish, and if I don't, then I'm going to feel guilty, and da 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 da. It's just this accumulation of a narrative that backs up another one, that backs up another one, and before it, we're just lost in all of these narratives that are not serving us and that are stopping us from serving in the world, in our communities, to ourselves in the best possible way. And that is, for me, the crux of it all is these things, it's not just that we're saying them and they're not just said, it's then how they impact how we feel and what we end up doing because of them. And for me, it's always that goes back to, we're all here with something to put into this world. In order for us to really grasp that, we have to go in and understand the machinery that is running us and actually what is helpful and what isn't. It may have served me. It may have served me in my teenage years, in my 20s, but if it's not serving me now, it needs to be toned down or switched off, dialed down, whatever terminology, so that I can dial up on the things that truly matter now. So, she's ahead of me, and that kind of leads on to the other phrase, which is, I should be further by now. And that self-judgment, that kind of like shaming of the pace that you are going at, as if there's something wrong with you now because you haven't done, and here's that, and I think of this quite often when, by the time I'm 30, I should own my home. By the time I'm 40, I should have two cars, and by the time I should have that and holidays. And says who? Who wrote that book? Who decided that that was what everybody should aspire to, for one? And if you haven't, then there's definitely something wrong with you. I mean, stop already, you know? But we take that to be the definitive story, we embody it, and then we beat ourselves up relentlessly because it's not here in the physical world. Oh, how awful a person am I? And I know I say it and I'm saying it with a bit of jest and a bit of a twist, but this is what we do. And
Oh,
the whole
indeed,
point is
absolutely.
every time we do this and we shame ourselves and we feel guilty, we're not moving forward. We're pushing ourselves back and we're pushing ourselves deeper into these stories. And, you know, yes, sometimes for some people it may help them to get jump for, to kind of get themselves. But sometimes that's a push, not a pull. And there's a difference between those two movements too.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts.
100%. I've been laughing because that was completely me. Like, I can hear my 18-year-old self saying, oh, by the time I'm 30, I have everything figured out. And, like almost 30 years later, I'm still figuring things out. And I love being in the place that I am because it's so invigorating in a way. Because, like at the moment, this day, and age like that I feel so much freer to explore, to use my curiosity to do things the way I want to do them, without that pressure of like, oh, God, I'm 30 and I haven't done the least. What is that least? And
Yeah.
I haven't done any of this, thankfully. But throughout the years, there were moments that I felt that heaviness of like, oh my God, I'm so and so, and I'm still doing this, and I'm still doing that, and I haven't done that, and blah, like
Yeah,
so much of this. And as you
yeah,
said, the guilt that comes with this narrative is unbelievable. And I really don't understand how we have created this kind of narrative for ourselves. I mean, it is, through our cultures, our upbringings, God knows, there is so much. Um, but it is like in our heads as if it has been our idea from the start. Because like my 18-year-old self definitely thought that, that was her idea,
yeah,
that she would have everything figured out by then.
yeah,
And there was no questioning that. Um,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and you say so you set yourself up to fail basically from a very young age, and then you start kicking yourself for having set God knows whatever goals and things. So
Yeah. And I think,
definitely no.
it's that thing of, one of the things that we are not taught or encouraged to do is to stop and question with curiosity. What's happening in my world right now? What is serving me, what's not? Where do I want to be? Not where does the world want me to be? Where do I want to be this time next year or in 5 years' time? There is a true sense of what I want, not what the world is dictating I should have, should be, must do, or what my parents are telling me I have to do, or my teachers telling me I should be striving for. All of that stuff, because all of that is just external messages coming into the system. And, I almost want to just say, even if it was like once a year, if every year we just was like, okay, let me just put the brakes on, let me just kind of see what I've taken from the past 12 months. What has shaped me to today, and what has that shaping even looked like? What has it felt like? What's been really fruitful about it? What's been really painful about it? What has been necessary, in terms of sometimes, some of these things happen to help us release ourselves from other patterns. What are those things? And now what does that mean for me in that year going forward? That's why for me, this importance of slowing down and reflecting it's crucial because it gives us the opportunity to check in with ourselves. And again, because I think I say it every single week, what truly matters to me now? Not what mattered to me 12 months ago, might be the same, might not. But if
Mhm.
we're not stopping to tune in and check in, how do we even know? We're just we're just on that merry-go-round and we just keep going. And then we get to midlife and it's like, what the hell? What happened? How did I get railroaded? How did I end up here? Why am I not joyful? Why does life feel so bleak? Why am I running around for everybody? Why do I feel so knackered? Da 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 da, all this stuff. Because where was the pause? Where was the coming up for the breath? Where was for the checking in? Where was for the not being pulled by what everybody else was doing all the time? And instead just thinking, yeah, that's great. Where am I going? What do I want to unfold?
And a thought that came to me is that we are not taught to reflect. Very rarely I have heard a young person talking about reflection. And it is something that, as you said, even from forget day to day, okay, like maybe journaling and things like that. There are certain people they do journaling from a young
Yes.
age, but um, I'm talking about this type of reflection where you say, okay, where did this year take me? What are the things I'm going to take away from this year, and how am I going to use them and move forward? And also, what are the patterns that I have seen in the work that I have done or in the way that I am showing up in the world? and what serves me, what doesn't, or even what serves me, but it doesn't, necessarily doesn't feel aligned or something,
Yeah,
because there are things like that as well.
absolutely.
So this type of reflection, I think, is something that we need to do from a very young age, because it's in essence introspection and like knowing your own self. I don't think there is anything more important than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's that wonderful thing, isn't it? If we were encouraged, I'm not going to say taught, if we were encouraged to just explore that from a young age, how differently that would pan out. Because if we were constantly coming back to ourselves, this is my work, coming back to myself. But, what matters to me now? Because again, like you said, something that mattered a year ago might not now. And that's okay. It's not we have to everything needs to matter. And if it mattered yesterday, it must matter today and it must matter for the next 20 years. That's not realistic. Yet we seem to get into almost like that habit. Well, I was told at this age, and this is what should happen, and therefore that's what I'm doing. And if I haven't done it yet, I need to keep on doing it, even when we don't want to pursue it anymore. Like you were saying with the books, it's crazy. So you kind of end up giving all this time and energy to things that don't even matter to you anymore, that are not taking you on the journey that you wish to see unfold. And then you question yourself and think that you're further behind or other people are ahead of you. And the reality is that, perhaps some of those people have just got really clear about what matters to them and they're just moving in that direction. And again, that's not a thing to then, oh my goodness, well, how awful am I? Because I haven't done that. It's just being able to observe that or to, maybe is that, I wonder if that is what it is. But then coming back to self and just saying, but what matters to me? Because whatever's happening in the outside world is happening in the outside world. What's happening in your inner world is your responsibility. That is 100%, I'm going to put that mark on it,
Yep.
your responsibility. That bit you can do something about. And then guess what? Whatever comes up and out of that, you can go and pour into the world, hopefully for the betterment of many.
Oh yes. Oh, yes. I can't say anything further than that, really. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Um, it and I love this when it comes to the responsibility, taking control, the controller. That is important. That is important to understand and to know. It doesn't matter what patterns have been running us. The moment we realize those, it starts like the ball is in our court. We need to do something about it. And the wonderful thing is that we can do something
We
about it.
can.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
And you say control, but I see it as self-leadership. I don't have to be in control of
okay,
everything. It's self-leadership,
it is. It
and
is.
that we have self-responsibility, self-leadership. They are ours. They are absolutely ours. And the rest, will unfold as they unfold. But we do get to decide what we pour into that unfolding.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
fabulous. Okay, I think we're good.
I think we are.
I think we're good. And listen, for anyone who has tuned in live or is watching the replay, thank you so much. Welcome your thoughts, your comments, your experiences. Remember anything that comes up for you that you share, and that's not to say that you must share, but if anything comes up that you're happy to share, please do, because who knows how that might help, support, encourage somebody else. So it's purely for that benefit. And we're going to keep on having these conversations, not least because we love them.
Yeah.
But I think for me, Evie, and I said this before, every time we do these lives and we have these chats, things become there's another layer that gets peeled off of my own eyes,
Oh
much
yeah.
less anybody else's. And that's gold. That also helps us to understand the importance of conversations, communities coming together, communing together, because it helps us to speak out stuff that's inside. And when it's out, I always think it's so much clearer and easier to see than when it's tucked all inside and just doing like relays around in your head, right? Very difficult.
It is the same for me. I do find that yeah, we might have started with this discussion so we can like give a message, and it's absolutely that as well, but it does help us. um and I'm sure like today, from our first discussion to today, there are like big differences in us as well. So it's
Definitely.
great to be here, and I love that we are going to showing up and having these
Continue.
discussions.
Awesome. Okay. So again, just to close off at Permission to Thrive, we're really here to help you break free from those narratives and those patterns that have been perhaps running on auto and keeping you caged.
With grace, not grind.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, for
Thank you,
spending the
Evie.
time with me.
Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you, everyone.